Kang Ta-san also explained that giant rat is not something that can be defeated by a first-floor player. That's why Li Taiyan had to resort to trickery. The method he used was knowing that the maze boss couldn't leave his room. He filled the giant rat room with oil and just set it on fire. Quite a logical approach with enough time. Considering he was the only player left, his strategy was almost perfect. But that's not the kind of battle the maze wants. Kang Ta-san took out his magic wand, and the monster was already so close to him. Ta-san immediately activated the fireball magic, and he said to become stronger, you have to show an almost perfect fight. Then Ta-san fired his fireball, and the system said, you dealt 14 damage to giant rat. Checking burn status. Successful assessment. The giant rat is on fire. Kang Ta-san immediately switched his weapon to arrows, and he said good. Status burn causing 1 damage every 10 seconds. But it's still a long way to go to defeat that monster. As Ta-san shot the poisoned arrow at the monster, the system told him that you dealt 7 damage to giant rat. Checking poison status. Assessment failed. The giant rat did not seem to be affected. Kang Ta-san said, no problem. I will still try. Then Ta-san changed the arrow, and he immediately shot the arrow. The monster was hit by the arrow and the system said, target is paralyzed. Cannot move until the next attack for 10 seconds. Kang Ta-san said, arrows with this status effect. They are really worth the price. Now, let's start skinning him. By paralyzing the boss with arrows, it can prevent him from moving. As Kang Ta-san continued to shoot arrows at the monster, the system said, you dealt 8 damage to giant rat. Checking poison status. Assessment successful. The giant rat is poisoned. Kang Ta-san said, along with other attacks, other status effects are added to inflict continuous damage. Then Ta-san changed his weapon back to the shield. Kang Ta-san said this battle is less of a challenge and more of a mockery. Then the system said, giant rat has been weakened. The damage will be more effective. Ta-san immediately hit the monster with his shield and the system said, you dealt 13 damage to giant rat. The monster became angry and Ta-san said, but there is a limit to this method. It's time for the health of the monster. Is this the time? Then Kang Ta-san recalled the incident when he was fighting the monster. Kang Ta-san explained that Berserker mode is activated when its blood drops below 20%. Previously, when he was fighting the monster, many of his friends were killed due to the effects of Berserker status. Even Ta-san was rendered helpless at the time. After that, the monster had revived, and all the negative effects that Ta-san had given no longer worked. The system also said, giant rat is very angry. Giant rat has entered rampage mode. After seeing the notification, Kang Ta-san said, the second phase begins. It's a direct battle now. Then the monster quickly moved towards Ta-san, and the monster immediately attacked using its claws. Ta-san immediately blocked the attack using his shield. But he looked quite overwhelmed. The system informed him that you have taken 8 damage. Kang Ta-san said, I can't handle this with my current strength. My strength stat is almost 11. To reduce the blood, I have to base my strategy on my best stat, agility. Then the monster looked like it wanted to make another attack, but Ta-san quickly hit the monster's hand with his shield, making the monster unable to move its hand. After seeing that the monster was helpless, Ta-san immediately lunged at the monster, and he said, now is the time. Ta-san hit the monster with his shield and the system said, you dealt 7 damage to giant rat. The monster became angry and Ta-san was attacked by the monster again, but Ta-san was able to withstand the monster's claws using his shield, and the system said, you take 5 damage. After that, Ta-san attacked the monster again and the system said, you dealt 7 damage to giant rat. Your combat endurance increased by 1%. The monster attacked Ta-san again. He tried to bite him, but Ta-san resisted the bite by using his shield. Ta-san looked overwhelmed, and he said, I'm having trouble breathing. My body won't be able to handle the fight if this continues. Then, Ta-san immediately pushed the monster using his shield, and he immediately replaced his weapon with a sword. Ta-san then activated the apnea skill. The system said, you get freedom of breath for the next 10 seconds. Then Ta-san immediately gave a few slashes to the monster. The system said, you deal 8 damage to giant rat. You deal 7 damage to giant rat. But the monster counterattacked and clawed Ta-san. The system informed that you have received 24 damage. Kang Ta-san said 24. At this moment, I can withstand a few more of its attacks. Including dodge, I can now do it about 8 times. Then the monster attacked Ta-san again and the system said, "You have taken 25 damage." Ta-san then activated the dodge skill, which made the next attack be avoided. Then Ta-san immediately approached the monster, and he immediately slashed at the monster, but his attack was avoided by the monster. King Ta-san again lunged at the monster and he said, "I will finish this before that." As they fought each other, the system said, "You have successfully countered." The enemy took significant damage. Then Ta-san immediately gave a stab to the monster, and the system said, "You dealt 20 damage to Giant Rat." Giant Rat seemed to be dying and the monster collapsed. Then the system said, "You have defeated Giant Rat." King Ta-san said, "I caught him easier than I thought. Now, is it time for the reward?" Then the system told him that you defeated the challenged enemy by yourself. Agility is permanently increased by 2. Magic points are permanently increased by 3. Your strong Striku has been activated. Strength is permanently increased by 3. Your level has increased. You have reached your best state. King Ta-san said, "I expected this, but it is indeed satisfying." The system then informed him that you have defeated the first floor boss. Basic reward. You have randomly obtained 1 stat-boosting potion. You have understood the hidden elements of the first floor. Secret reward. 2 designated stat-boosting potions. King Ta-san said, "Oh, it's hard to get this even after passing the 50th floor." Ta-san immediately drank all the potions and the system said, "You have used the random stat booster potion. You have used the specified stat-boosting potion. The effect of the random stat increase potion permanently increases strength by 1. Then King Ta-san said the designated potion too. "Obviously, I will increase strength." Then the system said, "Strength permanently increases by 2. King Ta-san said, "My strength increased by 3 in no time." Good. King Ta-san then opened his status screen and it said that Ta-san was now at level 4 with 155 health and 15 magic points. He had stat 17 strength, 16 intelligence, 30 agility, and had +2 attack and +7 defense. After checking his stats, King Ta-san said having these stats on the first floor. Back in easy mode, I did all sorts of nonsense to increase my stats. Come to think of it, I learned a skill, didn't I? Ta-san then checked the skill he had just gotten. He got the special activation skill, Counter, which consumed 5 mana and had a proficiency of 1%. The skill had an explanation that counterattacking the enemy's attack can deal more significant damage to the enemy. After checking the skill, King Ta-san said, "Counter, I'm getting faster than I thought. A skill that is just as useful as dodge." Then Ta-san stretched his body while lying on top of Giant Rat's body, and he said, "I have checked everything I need." Right, I wonder what happened to it. Then Ta-san opened the community screen and typed a message. There Ta-san gave a basic floor 1 strategy for solo mode. After finishing typing he said, "I posted a strategy guide in the community. I didn't expect much." Then King Ta-san checked the community screen again, and he looked surprised. King Ta-san said, "Huh?" King Ta-san saw that there was a lot of conversation going on in the community. There was a person who said, "Can anyone take a picture of the Fountain of Life path? I'm afraid to go because I feel anxious." Then there was the person who replied, "There's nothing you can do even if you're anxious. Everyone has a different location, so you have to follow what the shopkeeper says." Then Li Tadian replied, "You will be safe once you reach the spring. So it's better to go ahead and keep walking. But if you stay longer, won't you be in trouble because of hunger?" Then there was someone who said, "This is a race where our lives are at stake. That's kind of fun." Then there are those who answer, "At least there must be some possibilities. Still better than dying without knowing anything, right?" Then there was a solo mode player named Lee-san who said, "I've arrived at the Fountain of Life. Thank you for your support." Then a solo mode player named Kang Jun-hyuk replied, "Congratulations. If you're careful from now on, you won't die on the first floor." After reading some of the conversations that were there, King Ta-san was surprised. He said, "What? That's really different from the community in my previous life." The person named Lee sang in the past life. In the community he was begging for someone to help him, because he was being eaten alive by the big rats. King Ta-san said, "There was no one talking about strategy back then. There were only desperate posts. In the past a person named Park Chan-wong posted something. He said, 'We're not starving to death here. But is there any point in living like this? I want to quit now.' Kang Ta-san also said, later when we arrived, it seemed like everyone's spirits had broken, and no one spoke up, except for Lee Tae-yeon. In the past, Lee Tae-yeon was the only one who was still sane, and there he was asking, isn't there anyone out there? But in the present, Lee Tae-yeon was asking about Kang Ta-san. He said, that man isn't Kang Ta-san. Where did he go? I haven't seen him since his last post. Kang Ta-san smiled at that, and he said the flow is changing little by little. After that, Kang Ta-san saw that the path to the second floor was open. Kang Ta-san said, should we go now? But before he walked down there, Kang Ta-san put on a glove, and the item was called martial artist gloves, which could add attack by 1. The item had an explanation that it can protect your hands. It looks like it allows you to hit the enemy a little harder. Previously, Kang Ta-san had visited a shop, and there Ta-san bought the gloves. The shopkeeper said, what, do you really want to buy this? Are you using your fists? So that crazy old man taught you Iraq weapon arta. Kang Ta-san said, you know him. The shop owner replied, we ride together here, so of course I know. Then the shop owner asked, are you going to sell their meat? If you catch the boss, you can also get his skin and teeth. Kang Ta-san replied, no, I won't do that. It would be more useful to sell them separately. The shopkeeper said, I know what you're up to. Are you looking for the blacksmith? Ha Fran, mysterious blacksmith. Kang Ta-san recalled the story from Lee Tae-yeon. Earlier he told him that he would not be able to reach the depths without him. On his way to the second floor, Kang Ta-san said, he said I have to go down further to meet him. Then, let's speed up. This place is slightly outside the entrance of the labyrinth. The place where those who died from being stabbed with a knife can survive. The power here is not that strong. Kang Ta-san reached the second floor and the system said, the second floor quest begins. Defeat the boss on the second floor and continue. And this floor has rewards, mana enhancement potion for beginners, and a secret prize that is still unknown. After reading the notification from the system, Kang Ta-san said, mana enhancement potion. Isn't that a rare potion that isn't even sold in stores? Sounds quite promising. Then the system issued a lot of messages saying that there is a notification that has not been viewed. Kang Ta-san felt a little annoyed, and he said, yeah, geez, really. Then he opened the community screen and he said, what's wrong? Kang Jun-hyuk said, are you still there? Then after that, many people appeared and immediately gave Kang Ta-san many messages. Kim Taejin said, thank you, I was able to reach the spring of life. Thank you very much. Kim Soo-yeon said, Ta-san, wow, it's Ta-san. Lee Sang said, it's Ta-san, you're alive. Then someone said, Ta-san, I have a question. After receiving many notifications like that, Ta-san became confused and he said, where should I start? Then the system said, Kang Jun-hyuk requested to speak with Kang Ta-san. Kang Ta-san said, good timing. Then the two of them had a conversation, where Kang Jun-hyuk said, wow, this isn't a joke. What, can he talk? Kang Ta-san said, what's wrong? Kang Jun-hyuk said, it's okay. Just want to make sure our savior is still alive, I guess. Kang Ta-san said, why don't you worry about yourself? Kang Ta-san said in his heart that, to be honest, I didn't expect a person who was trapped in space and pushed to the limit would accept the challenge just by reading a post on the community. Kang Ta-san spoke to Kang Jun-hyuk. He said, it's not my place to say this, but are you really taking risks based on one community post? Kang Jun-hyuk replied, I have no choice. Everyone is at their limit. We need something to hold on to, even if it's just a straw, right? Just thinking about that time gives me goosebumps. Seriously, you're the best Hyung. Kang Ta-san replied, okay. Kang Jun-hyuk said that you know that too, right? If you don't enter the labyrinth, you can't get any food. There was no answer from the person who entered the maze. We became more and more hungry. In that catastrophic situation, it is said that people started eating their own limbs, you know. And there's no one to talk to. Isn't this the perfect situation to go crazy? Kang Jun-hyuk had talked to the gatekeeper before, but he couldn't talk back. He said, excuse me, gatekeeper, do you have any food to give? Don't ignore me. I'm thinking of running the labyrinth and devouring everything I come across. But at that critical moment, Kang Jun-hyuk read a post from Kang Ta-san, after which he was surprised by it. He said, solo mode, first floor strategy? Kang Jun-hyuk said, that may be trivial to you, but to us, it's a necessary post. Taedyeon was the first to succeed, and the others followed suit. After hearing such a story, Kang Ta-san thought, is that why? It was true that Tae-hyun had often vented his frustrations on the community even before this. Perhaps his success served as a catalyst, instilling the belief that if he could do it, others could too. Kang Ta-san also asked Kang Jun-hyuk. He asked how many people have succeeded in the big rat hunt. Kang Jun-hyuk said, just me and Tae-hyun. Kang Ta-san said in his heart, I don't know about Tae-hyun, but this is the first time I heard about this person. Perhaps in the previous world he fought carelessly and died. Since he managed to win against Big Rat, I can say he has the same talent as Lee Tae-hyun. Let's just say he is an irregular who survived thanks to my strategy post. Kang Ta-san spoke to Kang Jun-hyuk. He said, soon, you'll meet a strange old NPC who is looking for a god. He'll suddenly attack you, but if you react properly, you'll get something useful out of him. He's an NPC who will treat you depending on your behavior. Tell Lee Tae-hyun about this when he wakes up. Kang Jun-hyuk said, okay. Young, are you okay? Kang Ta-san said, what do you mean? Kang Jun-hyuk said, no, I just think you're giving us too much. I appreciate your help, but even if we break through the maze together, we're in a competition now. Of course I'm weaker than you right now, but if you keep giving us this much information, I'll be able to catch up to you in no time. It's not like I want to do anything to you when the time comes, but I can't just accept something that you earned through your hard work. Then Kang Ta-san hit Kang Jun-hyuk's head, and he said, you're talking nonsense again. Kang Jun-hyuk said, I'm being serious now. Kang Ta-san said, and what kind of competition is this? We are all humans, facing the impending destruction of our planet. The reason I'm sharing information with you is simple: to prevent you from getting lost in unfamiliar or dangerous places. You also know, right? There are many people who died after following my strategy. So, what's the point of just knowing the method? The important thing is to make it happen. Can you chase me just because I gave you some information? Kang Jun-hyuk said, I haven't even gotten past the first floor yet, so it looks like I'm talking nonsense. Kang Ta-san said, it's okay if you say that. Do your best. Then, Ta-san thought about someone, and he said, come to think of it, was it about that time? Then Kang Ta-san asked, how are the people today? Kang Jun-hyuk replied, I guess it's normal. People in other modes have been talking to me lately as well. But it's a bit like there are people who want to fight. I'm not sure why, so I'm ignoring them for now. After hearing that answer, Kang Ta-san said in his heart, those who don't know the subject have started to go berserk, I see. Then Kang Ta-san said, all right, understood. Then, good job. Kang Jun-hyuk said, yes, you too. Then they finished their conversation. After that, Kang Ta-san immediately continued his journey. He said, solo mode, second floor. The first floor is just a tutorial. It is said that the second floor is the true beginning of the maze. Then there were goblin monsters who were gathering. Kang Ta-san kicked the door of the building there, and inside there were goblins gathering. The system told that goblins with bows appear. Goblins with swords appear. Goblins with shields appear. Then the goblins immediately shouted at Ta-san. Kang Ta-san immediately took out his bow and arrow, and said, all right, go ahead, all of you. Kang Ta-san also told me that goblins are monsters to be faced alone. But it becomes more difficult because they tend to come in groups due to their shallow intelligence. After that, Kang Ta-san shot his arrows at the 3 goblins in front of him, and his arrows successfully hit the 2 goblins, and the system said, you have dealt 10 damage to the goblins. The target is paralyzed. But one of the goblins managed to deflect the arrow using its shield. And the goblin immediately attacked Ta-san. Then Ta-san replaced his bow with a shield, and his attack was parried by Ta-san. After that, Kang Ta-san said, nice try, but too bad. Try deflecting this with that weak shield. Then Kang Ta-san immediately hit the goblin with his shield, and he hit the goblin hard with his shield. The system said, you have dealt 3 damage to the goblin. You have dealt 4 damage to the goblin. Then Ta-san took out his sword and said goodbye. Then the goblin screamed so loudly, Ta-san said, that means nothing. But the goblin's scream made 2 other goblins come there, and they immediately jumped from above. Then Ta-san was a little surprised to see the weapon the goblin was carrying, and Ta-san said, is that the long sword? Then come forward. Then Ta-san immediately took out his magic wand, and he immediately pulled out the fireball magic, and the attack made a big explosion, and the 2 goblins were killed instantly. After that, Kang Ta-san took the long sword, and it was the rusty sword, which could add attack power by 2. Kang Tasan was happy to have gotten such a weapon. He said, "This is much better. This combination will work much better than the tower shield." Kang Tasan also combined his sword with a shield, and the shield was a wooden shield, which could add defense of 3, and the item had the explanation that it is small. It can deflect most attacks, but heavy attacks might break it. After that, Kang Tasan found a room there, and he immediately opened the door. The system told him that you found the Rakarada's altar. Then the system gave a gift to Tasan. The system said, first discovery bonus. Intelligence permanently increased by 1. Mana permanently increased by 2. The place looked so scary, and after entering the place, Tasan immediately approached the altar, and he said the labyrinth gods have several personalities. Gods who are favorable or hostile to the players. For the gods, the player is the target of their ridicule or their pity. However, most of the gods regard the players as mere playthings. After that, Kang Tasan looked at a skull statue that was there, and he said, "Rakarada's, isn't he the god of strife and death? I can feel it. Behind this door is a power that is darker and heavier than anything else." Then the system explained that Rakarada's altar, the altar made by those who serve Rakaradas. This is the gateway to the gods. Rakaradas can use their influence here. Kang Tasan said, "I can understand why Li Taiyan ran away as soon as he saw this." Then a reddish and dark aura came around Tasan. Kang Tasan said, "Is this the power of God?" Then the system said, "Subquest. Rakaradas wants to test you, who came to Alatarnia. If you accept, you will be tested. There is a reward if you pass. Reward will be decided by Rakaradas after evaluating your performance." Smiling, Kang Tasan said, "I'm not a coward. I accept." Then the system said, "Subquest begins. Rakaradas is happy with your decision." Then in front of Tasan a great energy gathered, and from there appeared a knight complete with armor. And there was seen that the knight was using a sword weapon. The system said, "Test of Rakaradas. Defeat the servant of Rakaradas, fake." Kang Tasan immediately got ready, and he said, "He's wearing armor. It's hard to find any openings because it's completely covered. That bastard is very strong." Then the knight quickly lunged at Tasan, and he immediately attacked using his sword. Tasan immediately blocked the attack using his shield. But Tasan was knocked back, and the system gave a warning that you had taken 25 damage. Kang Tasan said, "If he can deal that much damage even when I parry his attack, there's no point in using the shield." Tasan then pushed the knight, and he immediately replaced his shield with a sword. Now he was using 2 swords, less rusty sword and rusty sword. Kang Tasan said, "It's been a long time since I used a double sword." Then Tasan jumped towards the knight, and he immediately attacked him. But because of the big difference in strength, Tasan's attack was easily blocked. Tasan attacked the knight again and again, but the knight was still able to withstand all of Tasan's attacks. Kang Tasan said he didn't even flinch. "He's much stronger than me. There's no point in continuing to fight head-on like this." Then Tasan jumped backwards, then he said then. Tasan immediately ran, and the knight chased after Tasan. After that, Kang Tasan said good. Then Tasan immediately turned his body, and he immediately lunged at the knight. Then he said, "Looks like I'm faster, huh?" Then Tasan immediately attacked the knight, and he immediately stabbed the knight with the other sword, and the system said, "You have dealt 6 damage to the servant Rakarada's fake. You have dealt 6 damage to the Rakarada's fake servant." Then Tasan tried to pull out his sword, but he couldn't take his sword back. Kang Tasan said, "My sword is stuck." "Well, it doesn't matter." Then Tasan attacked the knight again using his hand. Tasan kept hitting the knight, and the system said, "You have dealt 4 damage to the Rakarada's fake servant. You have dealt 6 damage to the Rakarada's fake servant." Kang Tasan said, "Since I am also an Iraqi sword art, all I have to do is stay close to my opponent and make him unable to use his power properly. I have used this method many times before. It seems to be useful here too." Then the system appeared and said Rakaradas is confused. After that, Kang Tasan again kept his distance from the knight, and he said, "It was easier than I thought. Well, since we're still on the 2nd floor, I'm sure it must be balanced. Since he is the god of strife and death, he must have wanted a fierce battle that forced me to use all my skills, but alas." Then a strong energy appeared around the place, and the system said, Rakaradas has realized his power. In return, Rakarata's area of influence has been reduced. Servant Rakarata's fake has regained his intelligence. Servant Rakarata's fake has recovered his skills. Then, all the energy that was there was absorbed into the knight, and Kang Ta-san became more alert. Then he said, "What is this?" Then the knight gave Ta-san a creepy look, and the system said, "You have met the servant of Rakarata's." Kang Ta-san became a little scared, and the knight pulled out the sword that was stuck to him, and he threw the sword to Ta-san. Ta-san caught the sword and said, "There's no fake label behind it now. And the whole atmosphere is different too. And now that I have intelligence, the methods I used before may not work anymore." Then the knight immediately attacked Ta-san very quickly. Ta-san was able to withstand the attack using both swords. But it didn't stop there. The knight released a creepy aura, and he immediately released real power. Ta-san was overwhelmed to withstand this kind of power. The strength of the knight even made Ta-san fall until his knees touched the floor. Then the system said, "You took 13 damage. You took 11 damage." Kang Ta-san looked quite injured. He was even bleeding from his mouth. Kang Ta-san said, "What happened?" Even his movements are different now. Then the knight immediately hit Ta-san back. The attack made Ta-san bounce far enough that he crashed into a wall there. The system said, "You took 25 damage." Kang Ta-san said, "A more neat and daring sword attack. On top of that, it feels like a sword strike from a trained knight. It's my first time holding a weapon, but I can't control it at all. Wow, if the skill is maximized, can something like that happen?" Kang Ta-san was trembling so much that he couldn't even hold the weapon properly. Then Kang Ta-san said, "I want to learn how." In a labyrinth, every movement and action is evaluated. After a certain level, every ability is described as a skill. And that is probably the most advanced skill one can have. Then Ta-san let out an intimidating aura, and blue-colored energy came out around his body. Then he looked at the knight, and he said, "I want to learn it. Okay, when it comes to swords, you're much better than me. I'll give you that. But I'm a player. And just the sword skill won't get you anywhere." Ta-san then replaced his weapon with a magic wand, and he immediately attacked the knight with a fireball. The knight easily cut down the fireball. But when he looked forward, Ta-san was no longer there, and from the side, Ta-san suddenly came and he said, "I'm here." Then Ta-san immediately slashed the knight, and the system said, "You have dealt 6 damage to the Rakarata's servant." Then the knight immediately returned the attack from Ta-san. He tried to slash Ta-san, but when the slash was close, Ta-san said, "Stop. There's no point." Then Ta-san activated the spill skill, which made the next attack spilled. Then the knight's attack only dealt 15 damage to Ta-san. Then Ta-san activated the non-breathing attack skill. Then they clashed swords there, and the system said, "You have dealt 6 damage to the Rakarata's servant. You have dealt 5 damage to the Rakarata's servant. You have taken 11 damage. You have dealt 6 damage to the Rakarata's servant. You have attacked your opponent in sequence. You have obtained skill, consecutive attack." Kang Ta-san said, "All right, thanks for the skill, but be quiet for now." Then Ta-san took out his magic wand, and he immediately took out a fireball. His attack successfully hit the knight, and the system said, "You have dealt 13 damage to the servant Rakarata's. Assess the seriousness of the burn. The assessment is complete. Servant Rakarata's has been injured with burns." After that, Kang Ta-san said, "Damn, how do I kill this jerk? And I'm also running out of mana. My remaining mana is 5, and my stamina is 70. But if I retreat now, it will be difficult for me. I have nothing to lose now." Ta-san immediately lunged at the knight, and when he was close to the knight, Ta-san raised both his swords. Seeing an opening, the knight immediately stabbed Ta-san, and Ta-san did not dodge the attack. So he was successfully stabbed by the attack. The system said, "You took 80 damage. Then Ta-san looked like he was dying. The system said, "Holding on activated. The deathly attack is cancelled. All damage reduced to 0 for 1 second. Then Ta-san immediately stabbed the neck of the knight using both swords. And with all his might, Ta-san tried to pull out the head. Then the head of the knight was successfully pulled out by Ta-san. The knight laughed and said, "That was a great fight. Brave one." Then the system said, "You have won against Rakarata's servant. Rakarata's is satisfied." Kang Ta-san immediately collapsed, and he said, "Satisfied your ass. It's not fair to change the quest suddenly from the start. What an asshole." The Pooh system said, "You have won against Rakarata's. You have gained a lot of Ext. You are now moving to the next level. You have evolved into your best form. You single-handedly defeated a strong opponent. Your spiritual ascension has been activated. Kang Ta-san immediately checked his stat and he said, "How strong did I get?" Status window. And there it was seen that Kang Ta-san was now level 6 and he had 190 stamina, 22 mana, 27 strength, 25 intelligence, 40 agility, offensive +5 and offensive +2. And the status of Ta-san was player in its best form. After checking all his stats, Kang Ta-san said total stat increase of 17 points, plus 30 stamina and 5 mana. That's a lot. Aren't they going to drop some equipment or items? I was expecting that. Then the system said, you have passed the Rakuratas ordeal. You will be rewarded according to Rakuratas' assessment of you. Rakuratas is very satisfied with your performance in the match. Rakuratas wants to give you a reward. Kang Ta-san stood back up, and he said, "What a joke. You almost killed me. Is there a repeat?" Before Ta-san could finish his sentence, suddenly there was a gathering of energy and an item inside. The system said, Rakuratas interference area has been reduced. Rakuratas gave you a gift. You have been rewarded with the Rakuratas ceremonial sword. Ta-san immediately took the gift and the system explained that Rakuratas ceremonial sword. This is the sword used by those who worship Rakuratas. The sword is colored red by the blood of sacrifice. Kang Ta-san looked very surprised to have received such a gift. He didn't expect to get such an item. Kang Ta-san said, "Did I see something? Is it okay for me to receive this? This is not a weapon that I can receive on the second floor." Then the system said, "You have passed the ordeal. Additional rewards will be given. You have obtained a passive skill, evidence of struggle." Kang Ta-san said, "Is this how you repay all my hard work?" Kang Ta-san also checked the skill he just got, passive skill. Evidence of struggle, mastery of 1%. You have proven your fighting spirit. This can be strengthened from fighting with the enemy. Kang Ta-san also said, skill acceleration. Is it in the form of muscle or something? Well, God gave it directly, so it must be something good. Then the place looked like it was collapsing and Kang Ta-san said, "Is it not over yet? What now?" Then a screen appeared in front of him. Ta-san looked quite surprised, and from the screen it was written that Rakuratas offers you the apostle contract. Agree or decline. Kang Ta-san said, "Apostle contract."